I want to make sure that I acknowledge the sponsor of the show, TIEGE Henley, because TIEGE Henley sent me this new pack. They sent me the new TIEGE pack, so I just literally pulled the paper out, got it out of the mail, and I started going through it, and I got a little bit more excited than I should. You know what I'm saying? So they did send me the TIEGE pack, and I don't even know what this is yet. So I'm assuming this is what you get when you first order your TIEGE, and I don't know what this is. Oh, this is dope. This is absolutely dope. Is this a nail kit? Ladies, get this for the fellas. Fellas, don't wait for the ladies to get it for you. This is free. This just comes with it. 30% off your first order, plus 20% off for life. Literally. Oh, snaps. I didn't know that they were sending it like this. Real talk. So this is the nail kit that they sending you. All right. So now you ain't looking like a dusty. This is a free gift straight from TIEGE for the people that ordered the TIEGE. They got the small one for the little hands like mine's. They got the big joints for your toenails. And then they got the joints at the bottom too. You know what I'm saying? For y'all that's a little bit more crustier than usual. All right, so that's one of the free gifts that TIEGE got inside of the pack. And then, what is this? Says squeeze a quarter-size amount of TIEGE Henley body wash on the center of the wet bristles. Lather, scrub, rinse, and repeat for the perfectly satisfying wash every time. So that's inside of there also, right? Ooh, I can get my rubber ducky on right here. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to TIEGE for sending me that uncomplicated skincare for men. And then what we got in here? We got the actual TIEGE pack, right? So this is the normal TIEGE pack, but then they gave me the supersized joint for the people. They wanted me to show the people exactly what they got when they ordered that first TIEGE pack, when you're getting your 30% off your first order, and then you get your free gifts. You get 2 free gifts, and then the 20% off for life. So the 20% off for life is a new thing. And man, I ain't even got my keys on me to open this up. Maybe I can use the little nail clipper thing. I ain't got to buy no nail clipper for my new joint downtown. And then you get all of the washes, all of the scrubs, all of the AM, the PMs, and all of that stuff. So you got the whole thing inside of there for you to make sure you take care of yourself. But you got to make sure you take care of it every day. Right? We don't want to miss days. We don't want to be looking like dusties. It does not absolve you from being able to make sure that you brush your teeth. Brush your teeth. It don't fix the teeth problem. Don't fix you ironing your clothes. Don't fix you being able to take care of your business. But it absolutely makes sure that your skin is phenomenal, even when you go in between shaves. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to TIEGE Henley. We absolutely appreciate you. Thank you for continuing to hold us down. I might do an official TIEGE commercial, but I like just talking authentically to the people. I like giving the people the authentic look of what it is that you're dealing with, and I want you to hear from me personally, because anybody can do that little pitch and they can make some little videos, but very few of us can actually speak to the products of exactly what it is that you're supposed to use. So yeah, TIEGE Henley, 30% off your first order, and then 20% off for life. That's the Anton Daniels pack, 20% off for life. Using any other TIEGE pack, make sure that you go ahead and let that go. And make sure you tap into the link that's in the description and take care of it, all right? What's going on is Anton from antondaniels.com. I appreciate you guys for continuing to rock with me. Obviously, we need to address this P. Diddy thing. P. Diddy. That sounds crazy to say now, P. Diddy. Anyway, so we need to go over this, and we need to deep dive into this indictment and an indictment letter, which I'm going to present to you guys. And so I shouldn't be before you long, maybe a half hour, maybe so. But let me just give you a short summary of what's happened since he's been arrested last night in New York, in Manhattan. And they say that he flew over there in order, and he was expecting to be indicted and to be arrested. And then I'm going to go over the indictment letter, and then we'll go from there. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Shout out to everybody for this impromptu live stream. Instead of recording the video, I just decided to come to you live, and we're going to get it in. Let's get into it, y'all.
All right, Kara and Ellie, let me go to you. You've worked in the Southern District of New York. What is the significance of this being filed there, and can you explain a little bit more about these racketeering charges?
Yeah, Jim. So first of all, this is a federal indictment. It's been filed in the Southern District of New York, which covers Manhattan and the Bronx and some of the northern counties. So this will be a federal prosecution. Generally, federal prosecutions carry higher penalties, higher potential sentences than state prosecutions. And as I'll get to in a moment, that is certainly the case here. So this is a 3-count indictment against Sean Combs. Now, count 1 charges racketeering conspiracy. And the indictment alleges that Sean Combs, along with others who are not charged, but others, ran an enterprise, an operation, essentially a business that engaged in a series of crimes. Here, those crimes relate to sex trafficking. In fact, the indictment names the racketeering enterprise the Combs Enterprise. That's the title that they gave the enterprise. So that's count 1. Now, count 2 charges sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, meaning that Sean Combs participated in transporting women across state lines for illegal sexual purposes by force or by threats or by intimidation.
It sounds wild. I'm going to be honest with y'all. It sounds wild. For me, I know that it's easy for us to just wind up going ahead and throwing them under the bus. And it's the unpopular thing to say, which is the reason why I'm here right now. It's the unpopular thing to say as far as, oh God, every single charge that they throwing at him, he absolutely guilty as a result of. Obviously, this stuff needs to play out in a court of law. However, what they're basically telling you in this right now, okay, is that them flying women from state to state, I'm going to let them say it to you again, but I'm going to let them say it. I'm going to break this down to you from a C student's perspective. Them flying women from state to state, and then in some way, shape, or form, involuntarily having them do things that they didn't want to do, even if they sign documents, even if they sign paperwork, even if they sign consent agreements, even if they sign non-disclosures, with consent of the trafficking charge, which also feeds into the racketeering because they're running a business in order to continue to fund this illegal activity. We'll get into it. I'm going to read the indictment shortly.
That is an extraordinarily serious charge. If the prosecution can prove that, the minimum sentence there, if they convict Sean Combs on that, is 15 years, and the maximum is life. 15-year minimum sentence. And then count 3 charges transportation of another individual to engage in prostitution. It's sort of a lesser included of count 2. So we've got a 3-count indictment, racketeering, sex trafficking by force, and then interstate transportation for the purpose of prosecution.
This is what I'd like y'all to do, all right? Because I know that Chat Lives Matters, and the chat is a co-host of all of my shows that I live stream on. Please, for this conversation alone, just one time in your life, remove race out of it. For one time in your life, can you figure out how to remove the race part out of it and just look at it on the surface of the charges that's being levied? This has nothing to do with race whatsoever. All right? Because I know you always like to say, anytime, look, Brady Hudson, anytime the victims was white, you would be dragging them. What the hell does that have to do with the price of tea in China? First of all, it's a lie. And secondly, that has nothing to do with my take on this situation. We don't care who is who. I'm speaking objectively based off of the charges that's being levied. And what I'm saying is they can basically throw that word trafficking at anything. They throw it at somebody that's pimping a chick on Figueroa. They throw it at somebody that fly a chick out and then she didn't agree with it. Anything can be applied to trafficking. And so what I'm telling you guys, yes, okay, so the dude is extra freaky Jason. Yes, the dude is a monster for absolutely putting his hands on a woman, including Cassie. Absolutely, we watched the tape. We seen what CNN released months ago, and we can hold them accountable for that. But to blanketly throw a trafficking, which basically covers everything whenever somebody is moving around, to throw that charge at somebody and then say, I can give you life for that, is wild. And what y'all don't understand is the far-reaching consequences of this thing, which has affected so many different people who may not have been doing the right thing legally, but at the same time, throwing that charge, and a lot of times they throw that charge at people. And I've had people catch that charge before, and I've talked to them. They throw that charge at people in order for them to take a lesser charge and not be able to defend themselves in court because they're already sullied in the court of public opinion. And so I need you to look at this objectively. I know it's very difficult for you to make a decision or have a conversation about something and be able to look at the far-reaching consequences because you don't think that it affects you. But what I'm saying is, yes, he very well may be a monster and it's very difficult to defend him, but to throw something like that and then to say that people wasn't participating willingly is a wild thing because anybody can say anything about anybody, but you can't necessarily prove that they wasn't willing participants. And just because they flew across state lines does not mean that that warrants a trafficking charge. So remove the race out of it. This don't have nothing to do with race. This has everything to do with they wasn't even thinking about coming for him until the court of public opinion started saying that about him in the first place. Should he be charged with something? Probably. Trafficking, that's a bit wild for me personally. And see, this is why, I know it's unpopular for me to say it because everybody wants to be on the bandwagon and say, oh my God, crucify him. But I'm not you and I don't give a fuck about what you think. I say what I think based off of my own assessment of the situation, and then I go from there.
Constitution. It's a very serious indictment. These charges are extremely serious. The Southern District of New York does cases like this. They do cases against powerful, famous individuals all the time. And soon Sean Combs will be in court and he will certainly plead not guilty to this. And then we'll be underway with the proceedings.
Yeah, Ali, this is an extremely serious case. And Josh Campbell, let me go to you and see what you think in terms of what stands out to you.
I don't need the news conference. I seen the news conference,
as though there was a pretty extensive federal investigation here.
There was indeed. And, it's interesting. We've been reporting all along based on those original allegations, which law enforcement sources tell us actually spurred this investigation. He was accused of obviously serious crimes, including sex trafficking, including drugging women. And now we're seeing federal investigators actually bring criminal charges. What they allege in this indictment is that, we're all familiar with Sean Combs' media enterprise, but they're essentially saying that his enterprise existed for his own sexual gratification. And you had all of these staff members that were there essentially assisting him in this effort, to include members of his security team, members of his household staff, other employees. And as we look through this indictment, again, that was just unsealed, I want to read you one portion which lays out this slew of allegations. They say in this indictment that members and associates of the Combs enterprise engaged in and attempted to engage in, among other activities, sex trafficking, forced labor, interstate transportation for purposes of prostitution, coercion.
I'm about to read the indictment myself, but let me say this. All flights is off. All flights is off. If y'all, straight up, anybody flying people in and out for the purpose of having sex with them, it's over. Them days is done. Diddy done already put a stake in it. All these rappers, everybody. See what happened? Y'all joined the bandwagon and now all of these chicks is no more flights. No Spirit, no Frontier, no Delta, no American Airlines, no Southwest, no Emirates, no nothing. No nothing. All flights is canceled. No in, no out. We gonna treat this just like it's 9/11. This ain't the Millionaire Morning Show, so we gonna say what we want to say. All of you chicks that was trying to get a flight out, oh my God, he gonna fly me. That's over. It's over. It's done. Canceled. All flight, before I even get into the indictment letter, every flight is done. It's over. No flights, no nothing. You don't get no crackers, no cheese. You don't get nothing. We not sending you no tickets. See what happened? Now you messed it up for yourself. Now you can't come and party. Party. No, none of that. All rappers is making adjustments immediately. And let me also say this. Flew Out is canceled. Kenya from Cali say just be a decent person. Whatever. Anybody can accuse you of anything at any time. And we all know that, especially when you got resources. And I'm not saying that Diddy is innocent, but I'm saying that anybody can accuse anybody at any time. Let me say this also. This is why you have to be careful with who you do business with. And I say that because it all seems cool until it's not. All of the bodyguards, because I watched the press conference and what he said, what they were saying was, listen, we not done investigating and we not done throwing charges on people. Just because he the first person that we arrested don't mean that he gonna be the last person that I deal with. So a lot of y'all like to align yourselves with people and do business with people based off of the fact that they popular or they got the bag. But then when you named in this RICO case, in this racketeering case, when you named in the case with him because you worked for him, but you didn't blow the whistle fast enough because you didn't know, because she was a willing participant, and then she came back and made an accusation of you and you wasn't familiar with it, now you're going to be used as evidence, or now you're going to get them charges thrown against you. And this is why I say it's important not to just join the club. Stop doing things based off of popularity. Start evaluating whether or not that's the environment that you really want to operate in. Whether they good people or not, listen, oh, you know what? That's a little out of my wheelhouse. I got to stay out of that. I'm going home. I don't want to be a part of that. You have to be careful who you align yourself with, because you cannot sit there and still absolve yourself from it and say, I ain't seen nothing, heard nothing. I think that a lot of these people is only saying something so they're not the ones that's getting indicted along with it. Let's read the indictment. Let's go into it, y'all. United States versus Sean Combs. This is an indictment letter. Dear Judge Tarnofsky, defendant Sean Combs, a.k.a. Diddy, Puff Daddy, a.k.a. P. Diddy, a.k.a. PD, a.k.a. Love. Jesus Christ, this is insane. Was taken into custody this morning after a grand jury sitting in this district returned a 3-count indictment charging him with crimes related to his decades-long pattern of physical and sexual violence against multiple victims, and his use of force, threats, and coercion to enact his will, protect his reputation, and fulfill his sexual desires. That sex demon is crazy, ain't it? Got you on an indictment. The government respectfully submits this letter in anticipation of the defendant's appearance before this court later today in support of the government's request for the defendant's detention pending trial. As set forth below, there is no condition or combination of conditions that will reasonably assure the appearance of the defendant as required and the safety of others and the community, not to mention the integrity of the proceedings. As reflected by the gravity of the charges in the indictment, the defendant is dangerous and poses an ongoing threat to the safety of the community. If released, he remains a serious risk of flight. So they're basically trying to revoke him from having bail. Despite the conditions offered by his counsel. Most glaringly, the defendant also poses a significant risk of obstructing justice. They trying to get this dude like he was Jeffrey Epstein. This is insane. Obstructing justice, indeed, and as set forth below, during the course of the charged conduct, the defendant has attempted to bribe security staff and threaten and interfere with witnesses to his criminal conduct. He has already tried to obstruct the government's investigation of this case, repeatedly contacting victims and witnesses and feeding them false narratives of events as described in detail. So they're saying even making phone calls like, hey, man, you rocking with me or not? Hey, bro, you know that we ain't did nothing and all of that, all right? I'm going to break it down from a C student's perspective. There is simply no conditions that will ensure the defendant's efforts to obstruct and tamper with witnesses will stop. The defendant, therefore, cannot overcome the statutory presumption in favor of detention, and the court should order him detained. So they're basically trying to prevent him from being able to make bail and get out, all right? Indictment returned by the federal grand jury sitting in the Southern District of New York was unsealed in charging the defendant with racketeering conspiracy in or about from 2008 through on or about the date of the indictment. So to now, 2008 till now. So they saying, 18 years? 16 years? 16 years. In violation of 18 USC 1962, blah, 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 blah. Sex trafficking from in or about 2009 through in or about 2018 in violation of 18 USC. And count two, the interstate transportation to engage in prostitution. Didn't say nothing about no drugs. Didn't say none of that. This is all about box. Let me say it again for the people in the back. I'm reading the indictment letter, and it doesn't mean that it's limited to, so I can only go by what was filed. This is 100% about sex box women, men, freak-offs. There is nothing in this investigation about drugs. He's not being charged with drugs, distribution, trafficking drugs back and forth, selling bodies, none of that stuff. This is 100% about sex trafficking, as you can see in count one at the top, right here, as of right now. Sex trafficking, racketeering, so basically running a company in order to be able to get some box, and interstate transportation, which is basically flying these hoes in and out for prostitution from 2009 all the way up until now. I'm reading the indictment for myself. I'm not depending on any news source. I am looking at this. They are basically telling them that we can give you life. So first of all, we don't want you to have no bail. And secondly, we can give you life in prison for flying box in and out based off of whoever testimony or whatever it is. All right? So that's what these 3 charges that they're saying. Engage in prostitution, interstate transportation to engage in prostitution from in or about 2009 through in or about 2024. All right, I'm going to keep reading. I got you, Kenya from Cali. Let's continue. Combs' use of violence, threats, and coercion. That's what he's being charged with. All right, now these are the details. Since at least 2008, the defendant and other members and associates of the racketeering enterprise alleged in the indictment, the enterprise, it's the Combs enterprise, Combs business, which includes the defendant's multifaceted business empire and wielded the power and the prestige of the defendant's reputation as a musician, entrepreneur, and figure in the entertainment industry to commit federal crimes, including racketeering, sex trafficking, and other offenses. As charged in the indictment, many of those crimes involve the sexual abuse and exploitation of women and other crimes of violence. All right, it goes into number 1, sex trafficking and abuse, the use of the power and prestige of the enterprise. The defendant lured female victims into the defendant's orbit, all around you, often under the pretense of a romantic relationship. Hey, baby, I love you. I want to rock with you. I want to marry you. I want to rock with you all night. He goes on to say the defendant then used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause those female victims to engage in sexual activity. So the women came in, this is what this is saying, number 1. The women came in under the false pretense that I just want to wine and dine you, baby, and I want to maybe get a little bit of box, have a romantic relationship with you. But then Diddy was like, hey, man, listen, I want to have a freak off, and if you don't do this freak off, we're going to blow your brains out. And so the people, they're saying that the people no longer was there under the pretense of being in a romantic relationship, but he switched it. He said, I want to do a freak off, and he threatened violence, which included frequent sex acts with male commercial sex workers. We've seen that acute accusation with Cassie, that the defendant referred to as freak offs. Freak offs were elaborate sex Jesus Christ, I can't believe I'm reading this. Elaborate sex performances that the defendant arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. Freak offs occurred regularly from at least in or around 2009 through this year, sometimes lasted multiple days and frequently involved multiple workers. The defendants arranged freak offs with the assistance of members and associates of the enterprise, including employees of his business, in the hotel rooms where they were often staged often sustained significant damages. So the hotel sustained significant damages. The defendant ensured the victims would participate in freak offs through coercion and violence. For instance, this is one example. The defendant provided controlled substances, including ketamine, ecstasy, and gamma hydrobutyric, GHB, to female victims so they could and would continue to engage in freak offs despite fatigue. So don't get tired, boss. Don't get tired, boss. So because he provided these drugs, that is a form of control and coercion. So if you offering a chick anything, outside of water. Don't offer her sugar, no Kool-Aid, no nothing. And she get in there, and we need you to make sure that you get your endurance up, baby. Listen, he took that pill, and so he needs you to take that pill in order to be able to sustain this thing. Then that is a form of coercion and violence as detailed inside of this indictment letter. Let's continue. The defendant hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged female victims, sometimes by their hair. I'm guessing that that's what they got from that Cassie video. At least a dozen witnesses will confirm that they personally observed the defendant's violence towards women, so they took a plea deal. And or the injuries sustained by women at the defendant's hand. One incidence of physical abuse occurred when a female victim was attempting to leave the hotel following a March 2016 freak-off. Was that Cassie? Probably. I'm like 99% sure. This abuse was captured on video surveillance and publicly reported in May of 2024. That's when CNN released the video. The defendant's assaults often resulted in serious injuries to the victims that took days or weeks to heal. So all of this is a result of Cassie. For example, in approximately 2012 in Manhattan, the defendant paid over $46,000 to cover the damages to a penthouse hotel room following a freak-off. That's a hell of a freak-off right there. The defendant also coerced victims into participating in freak-offs by controlling their careers, finances, livelihood, and or housing among other aspects of their lives by threatening to disseminate recordings of freak-offs. The defendant used his considerable wealth and influence to make victims rely on him financially. Okay, come on, man. This is all bullshit. 100% bullshit. Come on, man. Come on, fam. Come on, bro. He's guilty of a lot of things, including being a monster. But you not going to sit here and tell me, because I know some chicks right now that are busted down for a real one. $40 on the low end. $47 on the high end. I know some chicks that just want to be there, that will do it just for the clout. I know chicks that'll go through a dude's whole crew in order to get to the top billing. And this is telling me that you sat there as a person, and we know who it is, and we don't have to say no names or none of that. But come on, man, let's be for real now. You could have left, but you chose to stay and then blame the person for being able to control your finances. You didn't want to lose your big house. You didn't want to lose the clout. You didn't want to lose the visibility until you decided that you wanted to leave. And then you leave. Come on, man. Come on, bro. We going to have a real conversation, or are we only going to look at it one way? Yes, two things can be true at the same time. You can 100% be a monster, but at the same time, it is not anybody else's responsibility in order to make sure that you can feed your family. Stop the cap. Oh my God, he threatened to take away the car that's not in my name that I didn't sell no records for. Stop the cap, bro. Stop the cap. Stop the cap, man. It's women that get into relationships with men because they got money all the time, but you can't then leverage that or use that against them. One of the reasons y'all keep getting, man, it's, look, the game has changed. The same way that family court changed the game with child support, this indictment is going to change the game 100%. This indictment is going to change the game 100%. Women get with men because they have power, because they have money, because they have influence, and they want to live a lifestyle. And you cannot sit here and tell me defendant uses considerable wealth and influence to make victims rely on him financially. Stop. 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 Nope. 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 Hey, if you leave, you cut off. I'm not paying for your car once you leave. That's your choice. You get benefits of being here. You no longer get benefits as a result of it. And this is why I keep telling guys to stop leading with their money. Come on, man. Come on, dog. I need to be his lawyer. Once he provided his support, the defendant repeatedly threatened to take it away to ensure the victim's compliance with his demands, including their participation in freak-offs. Indeed, victims believed that they could not refuse the defendant's demands. Come, you talking about grown adults. You know what? I hate this world. Cannot refuse the defendant's demands that they engage in freak-offs without risking their financial security or career prospects or without repercussions in the form of physical or emotional abuse. Number 2, other violence. In addition to the defendant's physical and sexual and emotional abuse of his romantic partners, the defendant repeatedly engaged in acts of violence directed towards his employees and others. As charged in the indictment, the defendant often assisted by members and associates of the enterprise engaged in kidnapping, arson, physical violence, such as throwing objects at people, throwing people to the ground, hitting, dragging, choking, and shoving others. Numerous witnesses, including the defendant's employees and others, observed or experienced violence from the defendant firsthand and sustained lasting trauma as a result of it. For example, in the early mornings of December 2022 or December 22nd, 2011, right before Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, the defendant and co-conspirator kidnapped an individual at gunpoint to facilitate breaking into and entering the residence of another individual. Multiple witnesses would testify at trial to the events surrounding the kidnapping and break-in, the latter of which is corroborated by police reports and records. Approximately 2 weeks later, the defendant's co-conspirators set fire to individual one's vehicle by slicing open the car's convertible top and dropping a Molotov cocktail inside of the interior. Could that be Kid Cudi? Is that the Kid Cudi situation? Police and fire departments reports extensively document the arson and conclude that the fire was intentionally set. Multiple witnesses would also testify to the defendant bragging about his role in destroying individual one's car. All of this stuff was in Cassie's indictment. More broadly, since at least 2008, allegations of the defendant's physical abuse of women and others have been publicly reported in the media, including Hollywood vlogs and on podcasts. You gotta be fucking kidding me. You gotta be kidding me. Seriously? Seriously? Our source is Hollywood blogs and on podcasts. Come on, family. Come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. Come on, fam. Stop, bro. Oh my God, this is insane. Hollywood blogs and podcasts. Law enforcement reports corroborate that, so they don't have no better sources than we do. They doing the same thing that we doing. Law enforcement reports corroborate that police responded to several instances of defendants' violence, including assaults against victims, other individuals. More recently, there has been an outpouring of other public allegations against the defendant, including claims of threatened physical and sexual violence dating back to as far as the 1990s. Maybe Gene Deal. In short, the defendant's violent tendencies are widely known. However, at no point during the past few decades has the threat of public exposure or law enforcement intervention deterred the defendant from continuing his abuse. Goes on to talk about firearms. The defendant and members of the enterprise, including the defendant's security and personnel, at times carried firearms. The defendant himself carried and brandished firearms to intimidate others. Indeed, some victims were aware of the defendant's access to firearms. Okay, so he had guns. The defendant continues to have access to guns, including illegal firearms. In March 2024, during searches of the defendant's residences in Miami, Florida, Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including three AR-15s, each with defaced serial numbers, as well as large capacity drum magazines. As pictured below in a close-up image, the serial number one of the AR-15s is visibly bored through and obscured. 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s are found in the defendant's Miami bedroom closet, stored broken down in parts, along with magazines that were loaded with ammunition, as depicted below. So they found guns in his house. All right. In addition, 6 legally purchased guns with serial numbers, some of which were stored in gun safes, were recovered from the defendant's residences. Although these particular guns, both legal and illegal firearms, were seized, their presence in the defendant's homes demonstrate that the defendant has access to and surrounds himself with both guns and ammunition. Likewise, if the defendant were personally restrained by the court from obtaining new firearms himself, he could retain access to them through others. So they're saying that he a boss. They say he bribed witnesses. Throughout the time period charged in the indictment, when a defendant faced the possibility that his violent and criminal conduct could become public, the defendant and other members and associates of the enterprise pressured witnesses and victims not to report what they saw or heard to law enforcement or to otherwise conceal the criminal conduct. They're saying basically he young thug. For example, as noted above, in March 2016, the defendant was captured on video surveillance, striking, kicking, and dragging a woman in the public area of a hotel. Obviously, we know about that. And in an attempt to prevent her from leaving a freak off, when a member of the hotel security staff intervened, the defendant attempted to offer the hotel security officer a stack of cash to ensure his silence. After the security guard refused the defendant's bribe, and after coordination between the defendant and his employees, the defendant's staff contacted other members of the hotel security. At the same time, staff members were in close communication with the victim of the assault as well, all in an effort to cover up the defendant's assault and to prevent the incident from becoming publicly disclosed. Within days of the incident, the surveillance video disappeared from the hotel server. Obviously not. Similarly, throughout the time period charged in the indictment, members and associates of the enterprise have reached out to multiple victims on behalf of the defendant to convince them not to report the defendant's abuse. Most recently, in late 2023, immediately following the public allegations of certain of the defendant's crimes, including his physical and sexual abuse of women, the defendant and other members of the enterprise made repeated phone calls to the victims and witnesses, during which they provided victims and witnesses with false narratives of events. In an apparent effort to conceal the defendant's crimes, on at least 2 occasions, the defendant recorded those calls on a co-conspirator's cell phone, therefore attempting to obscure his involvement in an obstruction. And it's saying that the government's investigation is ongoing. While the indictment against the defendant was unsealed today, the investigation into his and other co-conspirators' conduct is active and ongoing. As a result of that ongoing investigation, as well as the defendant's charged conduct outlined above, including obstruction of justice and witness tampering, the government is limited in its ability to fully set forth all known details of the defendant's criminal conduct, including details of certain witness testimony, to the extent the court has additional questions about the charged offense conduct or any other information set forth herein. The government is prepared to proffer additional information on an ex parte basis. So they're saying that, look, man, we got more stuff and more people that we still investigating, so this is not the end of it, but we want to just let y'all know that we got more insight, more information, and more people that we need to bring forth if we need to, in order to ensure that this investigation is 100% going in the right direction. What do you mean you can't trust my judgments on this, Anna? All I'm doing is reading. Anyways, you can trust your own judgment. Trust me more than you. He poses a significant danger. Discussion. Defendant is charged with serious violent crimes. All right, so this is just all in this is all an attempt after that to just basically prevent him from trying to be able to bail out. See, to revoke bail. That's the goal. It's to revoke bail. Here, the defendant's conduct goes beyond what the LaFontaine court found sufficient to revoke bail. Even before being charged with a crime, the defendant has taken numerous proactive steps to tamper with potential witnesses' testimony against him. All right, so they're basically saying that they need to revoke bail, that he's a flight risk because he got significant resources and he got a private plane. Yeah, but he pulled up to New York to get arrested. All right, that's pretty much it. The defendant's proposed bail package is insufficient. For all the reasons set forth there and herein, there is no bail package that can reasonably assure that the safety of others in this case, whereas the defendant has engaged in decades-long pattern of violence against women and others, has used his wealth and the power to ensure that his criminal conduct goes punished through manipulative and obstructive conduct. In particular, the bail package proposed by the defensive counsel or the defense counsel is insufficient because it fails to adequately protect others from the defendant's violence, impose measures to prevent and detect obstruction, or prevent the defendant from accessing his vast resources, including millions of dollars in cash, to evade prosecution or dissipating those assets to avoid financial penalties of his crimes. Defense counsel has proposed certain bail conditions, including home detention with electronic monitoring, a $50 million bond secured by the defendant's Miami property. These conditions are plainly insufficient to address the legitimate concerns set out above. So they're saying that we don't care about your home. We don't care about nothing. We basically want you locked up, and we don't want your ability to be able to get out of jail in order to coerce defendants or other people from testifying against you. And this is the case that we so far have. And this is why we're locking you up, and we want to charge you with these 3 crimes. All right? So there you have it. There you have it. That is primarily what is going on with Diddy. That is the indictment letter that was written in New York against him. They are proposing no bail. I will stay on top of it. Make sure y'all get TIEGE HENLEY, 40% off your first order, 20% off of life. On top of that, make sure you tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. And we're going to rock out, all right? I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Hopefully y'all got a little bit more insight on what's going on. Yeah, man, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting. So a lot of this that they're framing in this is based off of what he did with Cassie and the video evidence as a result of it, and that's one of the reasons why this indictment came down. We will be talking about this on After Hours. I want to get my friends' opinion of this, and we're going to go from there. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I did the speed reading for y'all, so y'all didn't have to do it. I know some of us Room 9 members, we are a little slower. Let me read some of these super chats. Major Scale TV says, I guess we won't be getting that Bad Boy versus So Def. You ain't going to be getting that versus? Yeah, man. Kiro says, we can't say the culture is trash and I look at the heads of Hydra. Bro, been a weirdo for a long time. Worst hidden secret in the game. Big Money Trucker is in the building. Shout out to Big Money Trucker. Big Money Trucker says, Anton, I can't help but to think that his public fallout with those liquor companies, we going to talk about it on After Hours, spearheaded this federal indictment. Probably got the video released. Kim 1 says, what J-Lo know? We don't know. J-Lo is getting her own divorce right now. So anyways, I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Again, make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Also, TIEGE HENLEY, 40% off your first order plus 20% off of life. That is what's going on with Diddy. You are getting the indictment letter here read to you. But I am a pretty decent reader, I'd like to think. And so we was able to get that knocked out. Make sure, again, y'all tap into the Patreon. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. I'm going to stay on top of this. Peace.